I used to think that investing was hard, boring, or complicated, but I found the perfect stock investing course that showed me how to invest as a complete newbie. Now I can build wealth in the stock market and do all the things that I enjoy at the same time. Check out the Lazy Investor Stock course and get started on your wealth building journey today.
What's going on, everybody? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. Appreciate y'all coming through on this Super Bowl Sunday. Let me know in the comments what part of the country you're coming out of. Also, let me know who you got in the game this weekend. I have Kansas City and the over, right? So I believe that Kansas City is going to win, and I believe that the total combined points in the game is going to be greater than what the line is saying, right? I really believe that this game is probably going to turn into a shootout because of the offenses that are there. However, getting some early reports that there could be I'm hearing something that a lot of players from Philly are sick. They might have the flu. That could negatively impact the game. But if they're all on the defensive side, then it also could push that score up. So let me know what part of the country you're coming out of, who you got in the game. Like I said, I got Kansas City, and I got the over, which I mean that the combined points is going to be over what Vegas is saying, right? So what we're going to get into really quickly, and I'm not getting into this to report on the story. What I'm getting into this is to kind of ask you, how do you see these situations? And what would you do if faced with this particular type of example, right? So really what we're trying to do is get you to understand how to look at economic issues a certain way, how to create solutions to them, maybe outside of what you've been given historically, right? Because we know as Black Americans inside the United States, we've often been given a set of solutions to deal with certain situations. And then often what we're doing is we're arguing over which solution is the best, as opposed to maybe sometimes trying to come up with something different and something new, and then going and implementing that solution. One of my desires is for us to get out of the space to where we're continuing to debate what needs to be done, as opposed to just going and doing something about it, right? But that takes people that actually want to go do something and not sit around and debate. We haven't been able successfully to produce enough do people. We still got a lot of talk people. And they think that things are won in the, I don't know what you call it, the arena of ideas, as opposed to the arena of going and doing something and letting your work be the example of what you're talking about. So really quickly, we're going to talk about, should Christians engage in economic warfare? Now, here's why this is the question. We have people that believe that as a Christian, as a believer, I shouldn't take certain actions if I'm displeased with something, because it's really not the example I should be setting as a believer. And then you have other believers that believe that, hey, it's our job that can maybe set a standard or to show that we're displeased, or maybe show that we don't like the way something has gone, and we have what we call righteous anger. And we have sometimes a right to want to try to do things against what we see going on in the world. And it kind of based on what doctrine you believe in, what your ideology is, sometimes what your ethnicity is, yada, yada, yada. However, we're going to kind of examine this story because it's greater than the issue of people in the church and people in faith. It boils down to an economic issue. And do you understand how a lot of times policy is connected to economics, and also how the behavior of corporations is also connected to economics? So if I only think that these things exist because of how a group of people at a corporation, whether or not they like me or don't like me, I may not understand the power that I actually do possess. And it's because these conversations often don't get framed in this particular aspect. And that's something that we're going to go into in this particular video, is why often, again, we get 5 solutions that we are supposed to employ. And then if those don't work, then we just try to reinvent the 5. So we never get offered new solutions to try to solve the problem. We're only told, well, you just got these 5 solutions that you got to try to solve it with. And then we argue back and forth over which one of the 5 solutions is the best solution. I'm not interested in doing any of that, because we've done that for the past 50 or 60 years. And we don't have people that are doing new things. I'm going to have Ross come on next week, and he's going to talk about how he's been able to do something different to try to solve some of our problems, as opposed to doing what everybody else has already talked about doing, debated, had 5-hour live streams about yada, yada, yada. So here's what we're talking about. Let me go to share my screen out real quick. Appreciate everybody for coming through. We're talking about this issue with Target and how they have dropped their DEI initiatives, right? So we know after George Floyd, all these corporations came out and they, really started talking about, we're against yada, yada, yada. We're going to have these particular initiatives on the corporate level. It's going to filter down through our stores. And here's how we're going to look at this problem. And there's a reason for that. And there's a brother out of Harvard. He was one of the people that taught Obama in law school. And he kind of talked about how capitalism deals with race. And one of the only scenarios in which capitalism will address race and look to try to create a solution. And because I think a lot of us are not familiar with these type of theories and this type of ideology, we kind of stay stuck, like I said, on the hamster wheel of how we should look at things. But we know that Target now has said that they're going to drop their DEI initiatives. And then people now coming out and saying that they should boycott it as a result, because I guess maybe they are disappointed that Target is dropping its DEI initiatives. Now, I never really bought into it because I didn't really know what those DEI initiatives entailed. I didn't get like a point-by-point situation. And I don't really shop at Target either way. I've never been a big fan of Target as a retailer. I just really not. So I didn't really feel like I was missing anything either way it went. I worked at Target one time before when I was a lot younger, but I never really shopped there. However, we're going to look at this. We're going to pull my affinity or lack of affinity for Target out of the situation and look at it from a standpoint of how do we get this particular corporation to see things our way using some type of economic solution. And so that's something that we want to talk about. But we know that since we've kind of had this new administration roll in, right, that they decided to drop the DI initiatives. And one of the reasons I believe is that a lot of pressure was being put on corporations by the former administration to take up these particular initiatives. Okay. So we know that they dropped them. So now there's been a reaction to that with a lot of protest, a lot of outbursts, a lot of people saying that they don't like the way this went, yada, yada, yada. So what I want to do is I want to show you somebody that pastors a church out here in Atlanta, and they decided to create an initiative to try to deal with this. And then we're going to go a little bit deeper into it, right? Because what I also want to do is look at how Black retailers that are inside these particular ecosystems, how they're looking at this particular solution. So if you haven't liked the video, go ahead and like the video. Appreciate the 47 people for being here. I know we kind of get into these deeper economic subjects. We don't necessarily get the crowd. So the 47 that are here, the goal of this is for you to leave and understand how you can employ something different as opposed to doing what's already been done. Because the game, again, is to produce do people, not people that talk and debate and argue for 12 hours in a row, because that doesn't solve anybody's problem. Okay, so let's go ahead and share this video. We're going to get right to it.
Wednesday, March the 5th. And for 40 consecutive days, some of those days will be here in person, other days will be virtually, other days will be on the phone, but 40 consistent days of prayer. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, I am calling us, listen to me, because we have to operate in the spiritual. I am calling the conscientious Christian community all over this country, the conscientious Christian community all over this country. I am calling for a 40-day fast from Target. Beginning on March the 5th. 100,000 conscientious Christians. You don't have to be Black, Latino, Asian, white, 100,000. You're going to sign this commitment to be a part of this 40-day fast. 100,000 of you bare minimal. I'm asking you that after service, you'll go to targetfast.org. targetfast.org. I want you to share with everybody on your job, every person in your home, every person in your sphere of influence, every person who followed you on social media. I am believing for 100,000 people are going to sign this covenant commitment of not just prayer, but fasting from Target. Here's what is amazing. Listen to me, because what we learned from the Montgomery bus boycott is that racist America doesn't respond to speeches. They respond to dollars. Come on, and if they start losing $29 million a day for 40 days, we will break the back of the system. I want to go on record that not only am I asking you to fast for 40 days from Target, I am telling you to sell all of your Target stock.
Okay, so I want to stop that real quick. I want to let you know I'm not a lawyer, definitely not a securities attorney, but I want to really kind of make you aware. I would not recommend that you ever go in public to a room full of people and say you should all sell your stock. All right, I just wouldn't recommend that you do that. Okay, again, I'm not a securities attorney. I can't give legal advice. But that's what really stood out to me the first time I watched this. And I know he doesn't really spend a lot of time in the market, so he may not be aware of that. Again, though, I would never recommend that you go into a room full of people, right? Especially with you're on camera and you say you should all sell your stock, right? Because it could be perceived that maybe you're doing collusion or something of that nature, and you don't really want to have to deal with that, right? So let's go ahead and keep going. I just want to stop that right there.
I want the stock to go down because we are standing in righteous indignation against racism and sexism in this nation. I hear the naysayers, I hear the pundits, I hear those who are detractors saying, how will this impact our black businesses? I'm glad you asked. You at New Birth, you're not at their church. So as a consequence, when it is that you register to be a part of this 40-day fast, we have come into partnership with the National Black Chamber of Commerce. National Black Chamber of Commerce CEO is here with us on today. Brother Busby, would you please stand? Thank you so very much for being with us from Washington, D.C. Listen to me very carefully. When you register for this fast, we will send you a digital directory of 300,000 black businesses in America, where you can do your business instead of going to Target. Y'all not saying anything to me. You can buy black-owned paper towels and toilet paper and soap and dishwashing detergent. Do you know what it's going to be for America when we start shifting our own economic ecosystem and start investing in ourselves? Let me further say to all of the black vendors who presently have products in Target, we are not starting for 30 days because I want you to have enough time to shift all of your product digitally so that the community will be able to support you. Your business will not fail and your family will not suffer. Additionally, every black business that is not in the Black Chamber of Commerce, you got 30 days because the fast does not start until March the 3rd. I need Target to be on a full alert because we are operating in decency and in order. We are operating in decency and in order. We are operating in decency and in order. I'm going to say it again. We're operating in decency and in order. I'm saying this before they got a new FBI chief that calls us a terrorist organization. We're doing it in decency and in order. Target, you got 40 days to pull it together because you made a commitment after the death of George Floyd that you would invest $2 billion into the black community before, watch this, December of 2025. So you to pull out of that commitment in January, you are reneging to the financial commitment you made to our people. Y'all ain't saying nothing. You got 40 days before we shut all of it down. We are calling all of the stockholders to be accountable to the commitment that you made to black people. Y'all ain't saying nothing. And I got naysayers saying, won't you just preach the gospel? I'm preaching the gospel. Jesus kicked over tables and used the whip to drive people out when they were out of order.
Okay, so the question is, if Target stated that they were going to sink X amount of money into the black community by this particular date, and now they're pulling out, do we believe that a boycott is a acceptable way to try to show displeasure with what Target has not done? Because we know if they say they're going to do it by December of this year and they'll pull it out in January, well, then there's no reason for that to take place. There's no way in which that can take place because they've already kind of pulled out these initiatives, right? The second thing we want to ask ourselves is that, do we believe that this is an acceptable way to go about things, right? Do we believe that, hey, if a particular organization or a particular church is displeased with how a corporation does business, that they should get boycotted? Okay, because we know earlier, I wouldn't say earlier this year, but we say over the last 2 years, you had a lot of conservative groups when certain corporations were taking certain initiatives. They were saying, well, we're going to boycott their products. I think you had that with Bud Light with that campaign. I think you had some stuff with Walmart and Target where they felt like, well, you know what, we don't like some of the directions that these particular corporations have taken. Let's boycott their products. So is it a difference? And I'm not trying to compare, two different situations, say it's tit for tat. However, when a certain group does it and it's acceptable, it's approved, yada, 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 then when another group does it, is it acceptable or unacceptable? Just things that we want to think about. Now, if you're a vendor in Target, because we got a lot of black businesses that are in Target, right? How do they deal with the fact that people are calling for a boycott on spending money with Target for the next 40 days because they have products in that particular store. And we know we have a lot of Black vendors that operate in those stores. We talked about that with Snoop and Master P. We had another woman call in on that particular broadcast. She talked about her stuff was in stores. So let's get a perspective. And I know some of y'all may know this woman. I don't know her. Somebody sent me this video. I know of her, but don't really know her like that. And she's going to give you the perspective of a Black vendor in these stores and how she kind of looks at this situation. Let's go ahead and share that out real quick.
About the recent DEI announcements at Target as well. And as disheartening as it is for me, I'm not the only one affected by this, right? It's for everyone who is a woman-owned business, minority-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses. It's for so many of us who worked so very hard to be placed into retail, to finally be seen and approved for retail, because contrary to whatever the world might tell you, it has been very hard for Black-owned businesses to hit shelves, right? Which is why it's such a big deal when we do finally land inside of retail. So it is definitely...
Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first.
It's gonna get nasty later.
So
like, to check the weather first before.
My bad on the commercial.
Heartbreaking to feel unsupported, right? However, I am in business in multiple ways with Target, with Walmart, and Amazon, right? I sell Donna's Recipe, my hair care products, right, are on Amazon. They're also in Target. And of course, I have a huge partnership with Target. I sell my seasonings at Walmart. I do business all over, just like many other people. And what I can tell you is, if we all decide to boycott and be like, no, we're not spending no money at these organizations. Listen, I get it. And if that's how you feel, honey, I 1000% get it. But so many of us will be affected, and our sales will drop, our business will be hurt. And if any of you know business, it doesn't just happen overnight where you can just go take all your stuff and pull it off the shelves.
Okay, so what she's trying to say, because she takes, I wouldn't say a long time to get to the point. That's just how she talks. But essentially what she's saying is that I have products inside these particular stores, and if you boycott these particular stores, it's going to be negative to my business. That's pretty much what it is. It takes 9 minutes for her to just kind of say that. But essentially what she's saying is it takes about 3 or 4 sentences to say it. She has products in these particular stores because she has a lot of personality and vanity brands, because she's a celebrity in certain spaces. Therefore, if there's going to be a boycott of these particular stores, it's going to be negative to her sales, which could impact her relationships with these particular companies, because if her products are in these particular stores and they're not turning over, then they're not going to want it in the stores. That's it. Right? And she doesn't believe that she can just quickly throw up a digital footprint and throw up some e-commerce on Shopify, whoever, her own website, and start driving sales that way, because she wants to do it through the retail space, because she knows that they have the traffic. Once you create your own retail footprint, you now have to drive your traffic. Well, if you're already in Walmart, you're already in Target and these other stores, you don't have to drive the traffic. The traffic is already there. You just got to get shelf placement. That's essentially her argument. The question you want to ask is that, do you think what she's saying, right, makes sense? So as a Black product maker or a Black vendor that's in these particular stores, do you think that she should be against, because essentially she's against the boycott because she feels like it's going to be detrimental to her business? So somebody sent me that video and I said, yeah, from her position, she doesn't want to boycott because if the traffic goes down, it's going to be negative to her business, right? But Target's one channel. She still got Walmart. She still got a lot of other places. So maybe she can compensate for the loss of traffic in Target and maybe pick it up somewhere else, unless she feels like she drives the majority of her sales from Target. And only she would know that because it's her business, right? But from her perspective could be different, because while she does business with Target, and I told somebody before, she does business with this company. So she don't want to see any downturn in their business at all, because less money coming to the store is less money that she can get from that particular store. Okay. So those are kind of questions we want to ask. So we're trying to do a boycott. It's going to be 40 days of not spending any money with Target because they dropped the DEI initiatives. Okay. You got business owners in there who are saying, well, you know what? We don't want to drop the initiatives. And then you have this particular website right here. Let me show it to you real quick, where they're claiming they're going to list you. And this is something that Jamal Bryant talked about. So this is the ByBlack certification. So what they want you to do is join, if you're, and Jamal Bryant talked about this, if you have products in particular target, join this particular organization, and they're going to put you on a directory, and then that's not going to allow you to buy black from these particular people that are on this directory. Now, I've been a member of ByBlack like directories before. That's how I met certain people. I currently still do business with them today. So I'm not against them on forum. But, you know, because I think they work to aggregate black businesses, sometimes you're not aware of what black businesses you have in your area. You may not be aware of what black people are doing business with. And I'm not against doing business with black folks. Some black people are. It is what it is. They'll sit in Walmart and wait 3 hours to get checked out. And the first time they have a mishap with a black business, they're outdone. But they go to Walmart and can't get no help. Got to sit in line for 3 hours, got to self-check out your own stuff and not get paid for it. And they don't have no problem with it because that's just how they think, right? So do we think that's a good alternative for somebody like Miss Tabitha to get on these type of directories and get her stuff listed there, right? And then do business with her people through this particular platform or to build online, okay? So we know what the argument is. So let's talk about another way to look at it, because what I want to do is kind of look at it and come at it from a different perspective. Let me go and bring this up real quick. Well, I was already there, my bad. So he talked about doing the boycott. He talked about selling the stock, yada, yada, yada. Let me go into something else real quick before we get into that. So do y'all remember the whole Proud Boys situation? So what they did in DC was that they vandalized a church. This church sued them in court. And they got the ability to get control of that particular trademark in the judgment, right? Because the Proud Boys got a $2.8 million judgment. They don't have $2.8 million. So they was able to get the trademark. Now, I don't know what the value of the trademark is. I definitely don't think it's $2.8 million worth. And so nobody can sell, license, transfer, dispose of the Proud Boys trademark name without permission from the church. So now this is a form of economic warfare where you take their trademark and you say, hey, you know what, if you want to do business utilizing this trademark, you know, you got to create some type of relationship with us to where we can benefit from it. Do we think that as a church that this is the correct thing for them to do? Or do you think they should just forgive the Proud Boys and just move on? So I wanted to kind of show you a different way of looking at the situation, because this is actually taking place. So they're not doing a boycott because you can't boycott the Proud Boys that actually have a business. But they were able to get some type of economic judgment to get the Proud Boys vandalizing their particular church in 2020, because we know the Proud Boys were just kind of out there in some of the stuff that they were doing. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it. But here's another way to look at this particular Target boycott. I just want to cover that story real quick. Why not buy Target stock every month for X amount of months, right? So I don't understand the idea of selling their stock. Right? Why not buy the stock? And I think this is something that's not talked about. And this is something I didn't realize. So let me tell you a story real quick. There's a brother named Corey Camp. He down with By the Hood, right? I was in a black-owned business group with Camp, and I didn't really know Camp like that. And Camp introduced me to the idea that you can buy a company stock, and then if you get enough control of the stock, you can now start dictating how the company operates. I thought that was the craziest idea I heard in my life, because nobody had ever told me that idea. My whole life, nobody ever explained that idea to me. So I really appreciate Camp being patient with me, because he does come out of the education space, and being patient and understanding of my ignorance around the issue. I just didn't know that you could even do that. So I was taken aback, and I was like, well, that don't really make a lot of sense. It is because nobody had ever told. He's the first person to ever tell me that that's something that even can be done, right? And so what I'm saying is that if we have these large groups of people and we can rally them and we can marshal them and we can kind of hold their energy, why don't we consider buying their stock every month for a certain amount of months, right? Because you can look online at how many shares are available to be traded. Then we can ask ourselves, what percentage of the float do we want to try to get? So the next question is it possible to get around 10% of the float under one umbrella group? So we can look at the float. Float is how many shares are available to be traded in the stock. We call that the float, right? That's how many shares are publicly available to be traded. Can we get a percentage of that float? What percentage do we think we can get? You understand what I'm trying to tell you? And can we get that under one umbrella group? Okay. So here's the reason why we want to do that. Once we own enough of the float, we can influence the board to do what we want. So as opposed to trying to take away from Target sales, why don't we ask ourselves, how come we're not trying to accumulate ownership in Target and then direct Target's attitude from that particular standpoint there? It's just another way of looking at the situation, right? But these are the type of solutions that never get presented to us because it may not be as emotionally fulfilling. It may not be as much rah-rah because it's a long-term play, right? Because Target doing the DEI initiatives, it wasn't negatively impacting their revenues. It wasn't. So it's not as if they're asking for something that is going to be negative to the revenue, to the bottom line, right? It's not going to destroy the business. But how come, and again, it's ignorance around these particular areas. When we have these problems, we never ask ourselves, okay, we're looking at a publicly owned company. We have all these people that we have influence over and that are waiting for leadership from us. Why don't we look at this from a different standpoint so we don't keep ending up in the same situation? Because if we accumulate ownership in this particular company, then we can influence the board to do what we want to do. So if we tell the board, hey, we want you to practice DEI initiatives, and we can call it whatever we want to call it because it don't matter, because we own a percentage of the particular stock and we can dictate to it, then we now have that influence over the board to get done what we want to get done. I'm just not a fan of everything being so reactionary, but I think we've been socialized to where we just can react to stuff. And everything is reactionary. Everything is crisis management as opposed to a proactive way of doing things. Because that doesn't get the numbers up. One of the things that I think is very challenging for Black people inside the United States is getting to a position to where everything is not crisis management. Right? But that's something that we constantly see is crisis management for every situation, which means that the provisions and the structure has not been built before the crisis shows up. So then the question is this what we just talked about more attractive to getting riled up every 30, 60 days? But if only way I can stay emotionally involved in a situation is I have to get riled up, then I look for reasons to get riled up. See what I'm saying? So if the only way I can stay involved, like I said, some people don't like calmness. They don't like peace. They're allergic to it, right? So if the only way I can stay emotionally attached to a situation is I have to get riled up, the work and the assignment and the structure of the relationship is not enough for me. I got to get riled up. Then I look for a reason to get riled up. I look for situations that allow me to get riled up, right? And I think once you kind of get past that stage, then that's no longer attractive to you anymore, right? But I think we've kind of been kept in a box to where that's the only thing that we react to. And that just kind of makes us like everybody else. And then because of our history in this country, because of what we've done with, we really can't be like everybody else. And I don't think we realize that yet. So we can let other people fall for, they worried about DEI, they don't make $50,000 a year, but you worried about DEI. Or they're going to get rid of US aid, but you don't make 50 grand a year. So they can just totally obliterate US aid and you still don't make 50 grand a year. Let them get caught up in that, right? Because that's not a solution to their problem. But I just think, again, if we've been socialized that everything has to be this emotional exhilaration for me to stay attracted to the situation, then I always am looking to create that because that's really the only thing that keeps me there as opposed to the assignment and the work is what keeps me here. You see what I'm saying? There was a brother he was talking about last night on people giving in the church. And he says, you don't give in the church because you think God's going to give you something back. You give because that's how you work on your righteousness. Most people don't want to hear that. They think giving means they're going to get something back. Well, the word don't tell you that. Right? Paul told you, you give to work on your righteousness. You don't give to get nothing back from God because God ain't told you that. But if I need to believe that, that's the only reason I'm going to give. So I got to always be talking about sowing the seed as opposed to what is going to help me work on my own righteousness. That's the reason why I'm giving. So I just think when we reframe some of the reasons why we're doing certain things, it can help us kind of understand how we can actually solve the problem. But I'm going to continue to tell Black folks all the time, We cannot get caught up in what other people get caught up in because we're not in a position. Let those people get distracted. We got to stay focused, right? So if you're down by 30 points in the game, them other people, they can get distracted. They can break down mentally, yada, yada, yada. You can't because you're down by 30. I don't understand why people don't get that. But again, I think the emotional fulfillment and the emotional hit and what they're chasing is almost like a drug. It's so strong, I'm going to always chase it. So you like that person chasing that dope. Well, they're going to wake up and chase that dope. They don't care what else, because that's what's really motivating their behavior. And I don't think a lot of people realize that's how you come across in a lot of situations, right? So that's all we're going to talk about. It ain't a lot to really go into, but it's just a different way of looking at the situation. And because me and the people that I'm with were very much into the markets very deeply, we know about accumulating shares in the company. And so we can just get an accountant. We can figure out what the numbers, what is going to be the money that it'll take for us to accumulate 10% of the float. What will it take for us to accumulate 5% of the float? So you got that guy in Atlanta from 2619, I believe that's the name of the church, or 2819. I don't know because I don't go there. No disrespect to their church. And they're talking about raising $20 million. Well, if you can raise $20 million to build a building, right, you can also raise that money for us to get ownership, for us to get equity. Because I didn't know until all this left-wing DEI stuff came out, I always thought equity meant ownership. I never understood that equity meant fairness. I didn't know that. I look at the economic or the accounting definition of equity. I always thought equity meant ownership. So when I say I want equity, what I mean is I want ownership. I don't mean I want fairness. I never knew that was a definition. But if I can tell a bunch of people, we got to raise $20 million to buy a building, I can also tell 6,000 people, we got to raise $20 million to get ownership in something. And then from there, now we can dictate how this is going to go, because we got an ownership percentage in this. So that if we want to influence what they're doing, we can do that because we got ownership. We can go to the shareholders meeting and we can talk a lot of mess, because why? We are a group of people and we own this particular amount of the share, and then we're going to keep accumulating. We're not going to stop at 10%. We're going to get 10% as a benchmark, and then we're going to keep accumulating and keep accumulating. They're going to look up, we're going to have 25%, right? Then we can start getting involved in proxy wars. We can dictate who's going to sit on the board. We can dictate who's going to be the CEO. But these are long-term goals. These are long-term marches. They're not short-term. So again, if the work is not what satisfies you, you like that person to wake up every morning, they're looking for that dope. You need that drug, and you need that hit to make it through the day, because the work of the situation is not really what satisfies you, right? So that's all we're going to talk about. Like I say, I'm not going to say that. But I'm happy for the people that showed up, because I know a lot of times when we come from content that's not necessarily relationship based, and it's not considered, a lot of people can't latch onto it really quickly. We don't get that same type of turnout. So we got any questions, comments, or disagreements? I'm going to let you come in. Let me go ahead and put that up there real quick. All right. So if you want to come through, any questions, comments, or disagreements, here's your opportunity. I'm going to read some of these comments. So everybody that came through with the super chat, I appreciate it. So Method Jackson, man, appreciate you being a new member. So we just rolled out the YouTube memberships. Y'all go ahead and check those out. And over time, we're going to keep continuing to put content behind walls, because we got so much content. And like I said, is that we're going to kind of segment it for people that really value certain types of content that we're producing here. Big up the Ray Gun, say Chiefs by 10. I feel you. Pascal, man, appreciate the $19.99 super chat. Goddess Noel, appreciate the $10 super chat. So our community is being taught to think as consumers, not producers. Instead of begging businesses to give us something, we can extract profit through stock purchases. You on point. I agree, Goddess Noel. I just think one of the biggest challenges we have, but especially as men, is, again, I talked about this a lot on this channel, is we're being told we're acceptable if we're a big consumer. That's what makes us acceptable to people, most importantly, women. So we got to kind of ask ourselves, why do we think that makes us acceptable? But when we're programming our people, most importantly, men, that what makes you acceptable to women that you want to partner with is if you become this massive consumer and you can show that you can be a big time consumer. So that's why you get guys like Andrew Tate with all the cars and all that stuff and the clothes and the jewelry, because why? He's showing I'm a big time consumer. That's kind of the standard that we've created in our particular society. So it's hard to break from that when your social groups is telling you, well, the way you show that you have value and the way that you show that you're acceptable is you got to be this consumer, right? Because we're not getting enough people to saying that, you know what, I only want to be associated with people that are producing and investing as opposed to people that can show me how much they can consume. Because, you know, we live in the metro area of Atlanta. This is a big consumption city. People breaking their neck this weekend to consume. They're not going to produce anything. They're just going to consume, right? But I appreciate that comment. Oh, my bad. So what's up to Farida James? Appreciate you coming through as a member. What's up to Mr. Bass? Appreciate you coming through as a new member. All right. So again, any questions, comments, disagreements is pinned in the chat, man. You got your opportunity to come through on the Super Bowl weekend. What's up to Jay Preston out of Indiana? I see you be moving between Indiana and Chicago a lot, but even though Indiana right on the border of Chicago, what's up with it? What's up with that Gary, Indiana real estate play? So Pascal, man, appreciate the cash out, bro. So my life, my money says Nehemiah 4, build in front of your enemies with a weapon. I feel you. What's up to Dr. Chaz? What's up to Dr. Chaz? What's up? GC, what's up with it? So Brandon Williams says church should have promoted the black registry regardless of a boycott. I feel you. So C. Simon says, what happens if targeted employees lose their jobs? I feel you right there. That's something that you got to weigh out. You know, because people can't lose their jobs if the revenue turns down, especially from a store-to-store level. So I feel you right there. You know, there's a price to be paid, you know, when you start talking about boycotts. This is economic warfare. You know, but see, Simon, you got to ask yourself, when we lose our jobs, does anybody ask that question? But this is economic warfare. There's going to be casualties in it. Ms. Alexander says, how come we already have the directory? Let me look it up. I feel you. That website's been out there. But, you know, Ms. Alexander, there's so many directories. Because when I moved to Houston, I try to look up black business directories to find certain stuff. And most of them, in my attitude, they don't get enough participation. Often when I try to look up black business directories to find specialists, it's very difficult. Because most people, to me, just don't participate in them for whatever reason. And then we don't have the informal networks a lot of times, so it's just hard to find it. Yeah, great question, Ms. Alexander. Why wasn't we keeping tabs on the $2 billion amount target? Couldn't have been the only one. Because this is what I'm saying, Ms. Alexander. We get caught up in the headline of it. So it's the same thing with the Goldman headline. People are so proud that Goldman said, we'll spend X amount of money with black women. They won't go ask for an accounting of it. And then what are the results of what they done? Because again, it's the emotional, it's the dope hit. So you may not be aware of this, but I am. Places where people do drugs, if you wake up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they walking around looking for dope. Now this is over with because pretty much all those people are gone. But there was a time in this country to where in certain parts of the country, you wake up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they walking around looking for that dope because they got to get it. They woke up and they already jonesing for it. And so to me, I think that's kind of where we're at. Well, we're always looking for that next emotional hit. So if I can get a headline that says this particular Fortune 500 company is going to invest a certain amount of money in this particular group, and that makes me feel good, that's all they need to do is come out with a headline, right? They don't have to really do anything else. There's no accounting. There's no due diligence. There's no follow through to make sure that they're doing what they say they're doing, because we know that we spend a lot of money with these folks and they claim that's what they were going to do in response to what happened with George Floyd. So they should stand on that and there should be some follow through with it, right? Because the question is, Ms. Alexander, if that they haven't spent the $2 billion by now, I doubt that they was going to do that in 12 months. That's a lot of money to be outlaying in 12 months. Okay, big up, Miss Alex, got your season from the commissary. See, Miss Alexander, a lot of people don't know about that commissary, though. You know what I'm saying? They don't know about that because I know I had a homeboy back in the day, his mother worked at the Navy commissary in Orlando. That's where he used to get his Jordans. A lot of people don't know about that commissary. They're not hip to that. So Dr. Chad says, boycott seems like a historic strategy. A more direct way would be suitable. Short the stock, plant, or have a powerful person or people infiltrate the company. I agree with you. There's a lot of different ways to skin the cat. So Jasmine Toke says, wouldn't this be an excellent opportunity for these businesses to start using direct-to-consumer technology like Ryan Leslie's product Superphone? It would be, Miss Tokes, but there's a question again is, how do they drive traffic to that direct-to-consumer platform? So one of the reasons why I would be putting my products in the store is because the traffic's already in the store. So now I just got to promote to my people who are already going to that store, just buy my product when you go there. If I put up my own footprint, then I got to run a lot of direct-to-consumer ads to get people from wherever they're at to my particular platform. And Miss Tabitha just may not want to get involved in that. She may not even have knowledge of how to do it. You know, sometimes I think people of a certain age only want to do what they already know how to do, which is, I know I go to the store and shop. Let me go to the store and shop. They may not be hip to e-commerce yet. Or she may be on some level, but she may not want to really push all the way in that particular direction. So it kind of depends on, you know, kind of direction she want to go to. But at the end of the day, you got to drive traffic to wherever you're at. And the stores, we know that the Walmarts, the Targets, whatever, they already got a lot of traffic that's already there. So Blossom and Bloom says, Black people don't have another alternative on scale. Should have just waited until people calm down. Not attacking her for stating the truth. Yeah, I mean, that's her perspective. She does business with these stores. So that's her perspective. She's invested with these particular stores. She has a relationship with them. It wouldn't be my perspective because I don't do business with them like that. So I wouldn't, but I understand where she's coming from. She's speaking from a business standpoint, and we got to better have these business conversations and nobody take it personal. Because at the end of the day, she got a right to want to protect her business. She's built this thing up over years. She's built up these relationships. She got to be willing to stand on that and say, well, you know what, I don't want to do business with these folks no more because I felt like they weren't honest with them saying they was going to do the $2 billion. If she don't want to do it, she can keep her stuff in there, and then I can choose whether or not I still want to do business with her. So everybody got a choice to make. You know, that's what makes this thing great. Anthony Bassett, that's what I was going to say about the stock. Yeah, definitely. You know, we got these big old organizations with a lot of people, and they got a lot of pull. I would be accumulating, right? So that's why I say, you know, they don't want me to start no ministry because they're gonna be like, man, Dave tripping because we gonna be buying something. Their money ain't gonna be going to me. It's gonna be going into the market because I really think churches should invest, right? But I know I would get a lot of kickback from that. I don't think churches should always be asking people for money. We should invest money. But that's me. Everybody different, right? We should be buying land too. You know, it's no reason to where we have. I live in the metro area, but this would be similar to a lot of parts of the country. When you got Antioch over there in Atlanta, Antioch been over there since the 1800s. It was a time when Antioch could have bought the whole bluff for probably $1 million. The whole bluff, not one piece of it. Right after the crack era, Antioch probably could have bought the whole bluff for $1 million, just land bank it. They'd be sitting on a double-digit million portfolio right now. And they just over there. So we're seeing that area getting gentrified, real estate value starting to go up, go up, go up. The bluff is going to be a real nice spot in 20 years. It's going to be fly over there because them houses over there are unlike any other houses in the city of Atlanta, the way they look. They got a very distinct look. They're very big. They're really nice. It's just the area went down. But you got that big church over there with all those people coming in every Sunday, but they never looked to accumulate anything with what they was doing. We don't see churches buying farmland. That's something they could take from the Nation of Islam, right? Buy farmland and start worrying about how you're going to feed your folks. You can't talk about these initiatives in churches. These, you know, people don't like that. They want to do the building fund stuff. That's what they cool with. We start talking about buying land, buying companies. They don't want to talk about that. So like I say, they don't want me to start the ministry because they be like, man, Dave is tripping. Katrina says 90% institutional ownership. Ford also pulled back. Yeah, everybody's pulling back, Katrina, because of the environment that we're currently in now, right? And they know that it's not popular. And they also know that, in my opinion, that Black consumers will do business with them regardless of what they do. I just think, and this is something that I'm going to talk about in a later video, capitalism doesn't change in regards to race until they think it's going to be negative to their business. And a lot of these major corporations are not only concerned with how they look inside the United States, they're concerned with how they look internationally. And what happened with George Floyd, it really made America look bad because America's claiming they're the standard bearer. And so I think that's what caused the reaction. Once we kind of got a little bit past that and we didn't hold their feet to the fire, we've dropped the ball like this in multiple situations. Their attitudes, we can walk away from it and people still gonna buy our products. So Target misled investors about the risk of its DEI initiatives. So see, Simon, if you could do me a favor, man, come through and tell me about the risk of the DEI initiatives. Well, because one day, I don't know how they've been defined, but if you could do me a favor, man, come on here and break down to us what are the risks of the initiatives, bro. You got the open carpet treatment, the doors open whenever you want to come through. Let me know what the risks are. Yeah, it's 40 days to get back to shopping at Target. That's what I'm saying. It has to be long term, right? So that's why I'm not a fan of it. But again, Miss Alexander, after 40 days, we got to come up with something new because it's about the emotionalism of the situation. It ain't about staying through and falling in love with the work of the situation. It's about the emotionalism of it. So that's just the issue, right? So 40 days. I'm not a fan of broadcasting fast. I don't like this whole let's go on a fast and tell the whole world. I don't understand the goal of that. But, you know, everybody different. Miss Alexander says, I remember the pro-Black business push in the George Floyd era. I made some good connections. Big up to you. You got to take advantage of these situations because it'd be a lot of times be a moment in time. So I'm happy that any Black person is able to get some government contracts during that situation. Big up to them, right? Because it was a moment in time. You got to take advantage of that situation because it ain't going to last forever because we don't have no stand. We don't stay at nothing except popping the balloon and stuff like that, right? And that's across the board, even for people that quote unquote got educations. That's the only stuff we stay tapped into. Stuff like this is here today, gone tomorrow. People know that. So they know we'll get them a little something and, you know, wait 2 years and they'll forget about it. You know, they'll forget about it. PhD programs. This is the strategy Roy and Kitty did with GameStop. Well, so it wasn't really a strategy. He claimed he believed in the company, so he accumulated shares, right? But it wasn't that he wanted to have control over what was going on in GameStop. He just claimed he believed that the company was undervalued based in comparison to its value to its stock price. So he accumulated at a very, very low price, and then people kind of jumped on board to it. But I definitely don't think he was trying to influence the board of GameStop. Because that would have been a waste of time because there's nothing there. GameStop don't have a business. You know, they don't. We're in the digital era. Selling games through a retail footprint is the biggest waste of time in the world. Miss Katrina, it should be a membership tab on the main channel page. It should be. If you can't find it, let me know. It should be there. Because my experience as the owner of the channel is different from everybody else. Sometimes I need to probably just log out and look at it from the front end. But it should be on the main page when you go to the main page of the channel. Appreciate Mr. Webb with the $4 super sticker. So big up to Jay Preston. Said 2 guys I know actively engaged in purchasing single family homes in Gary to rent them out. Big up to them and big up to Jay Preston. Ms. Alexander says, I found the BOB directory collected by my city, 600 certified, 3,000 uncertified. Yeah, people don't participate. It is what it is, though. You can hear me?
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Dave, what's going on?
I'm doing all right. How you feel?
Good. I just got a couple quick comments.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that your messaging is consistent no matter what's going on. And but because I remember at one point you did a live and you were talking about the different techniques that what was it Elon Musk was trying to use with X a while ago when he made that purchase.
Yeah.
So it's in line with what you're talking about right now. But just a couple quick comments about like focusing on whatever issues kind of affect you the most. Like personally, when I looked at found out about what was going on with the DI initiatives and so on and so forth, and what they were trying to do with USAID,
Hmm.
um, the only thing that I would say that was any sort of concern to me was USAID. And the reason why I say that is because, like, my university that I go to, Fayetteville State, um, they employ a lot of people from, my school, or
Hmm.
quite a bit of them. And most of it is because of, like, in my opinion, because of what USAID does and the fact that they're in other countries too. And we have a large military and military affiliated population. They're used to that lifestyle and they're willing to go through that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I first found out about, potentially them cutting USAID, I was like, okay, how is this going to affect students at the university trying to get these opportunities in these different fields? Because what I do know is an issue is that there are companies that are trying to establish relationships with colleges or specifically like us HBCUs, and they're not delivering on certain promises.
Hmm.
Like certain major consulting firms that are saying like, "Hey, we're going to come over here and we're going to look at you first, or we're going to look at you," and they observe our all projects, all the stuff we do, and they're not delivering, which is kind of hurting the relationship.
Yeah.
So I see this as like a potential a bad thing with this thing happening with USA because they actually hire people. These
Yeah.
major consulting firms that are just trying to show face are not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. So I think the two separate issues. So the one is the major organizations, but the major corporations saying that they want to recruit these particular black graduates, but not recruiting them. And then the USA being a separate issue. But I know you're tying it by saying, well, USA does hiring because we know that there's people in those particular organizations that are motivated to do those particular things. And so I really think it goes down to what is the actual motivation of the people that have to say so. And I just think for a lot of scenarios when you're dealing with a lot of these major corporations, they're doing things because they're feeling pressured to do them. And once that pressure is over, they stop doing them. So my thing is you got to just keep the pressure on them. So if we got to, I don't know, you might be too young to remember early 90s Arkansas. They had something called so I think it was like called 40 minutes of hell or 48 minutes of hell, which means that when they played you, they go full court press you the whole game. They're not coming out to press. So if they up by 20, down by 20, you're going to get full court press. And their goal was we just going to wear you down over the course of the game. So that's how they play ball. Georgetown used to play a similar style like that. Then Cincinnati picked it up. What I think has happened to us is we think we get somewhere, and then we think the goal is to take the press off. You keep pressing. Because if we win by pressing, then that's how we win. If that's our style, that's what we do until we feel like, well, we can no longer be successful doing that. But if you look at organizations like AIPAC's never going to stop advocating to make sure money, U.S. taxpayer money, flows to Israel. It don't matter how much money they raise. It don't matter how that situation in Israel changes. They're going to keep doing what they're doing because that's what they do. I think we've been confused around. We've gotten to a point we can stop doing certain things, or here's a way to escape from our situation by doing other stuff. But the thing is, there is no escape.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. And one thing that I see is that we talk about it. Well, people talk about it, but then once we start to try to get to it, people realize the kind of work that might need to be done. Like you were just talking about, um, gathering and actually, buying, having stake in the company, constantly
Mm-hmm.
buying their stock. Um, and these are conversations that I would have in different groups that I'm a part of. But then what they're also dealing with too is like we got a lot of people. When I talk about the younger ones, probably more recent graduates, or some who are actually like on the lower end, who are like staff or whatever, who are trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So it's like what we really focusing on first and foremost is trying to get our funds up.
Yeah.
So So yeah, so that's basically just what I see from here. Like, I would just say like me personally, all these issues, like I only see like in any way, shape, or form the U.S. aid portion being a part that we would actually put some attention to because they actually hire us. Um, they actually come in and hire people. Um, and then the other thing was other things too, like the fact that they're getting rid of historical monuments and stuff like that and propping up Starbucks. Like I'm more concerned with that than them throwing away DI initiatives that didn't benefit us in the first place because the people who are recent graduates can't find jobs that pay them enough anyways. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, I agree with you what you're saying. I just think that USA aid issue is so large, it's so widespread because it's not just, so you got that segment that you talked about, but it's such a widespread issue because I was talking to a journalist last week because I was looking at trying to short the New York Times, and they helped me with some research on whether or not USAID and how much money USA was actually giving the New York Times. Found out they really weren't giving them that much money. It was just something that was coming up on a headline. I think that USAID issue is so broad that you talking about one piece of it, but I also found out that like they were giving HIV prevention in South Africa. It's something that they do a lot to try to spread goodwill in other parts of the world. So I just think, again, there were people in that organization that were committed to what you were talking about, where we're going to make sure that these particular people get employment. And it may be difficult to find people that have that level of commitment in other areas. And I just think people in that office, there was maybe a culture in that particular organization that we're going to do these particular things and do this type of outreach. And I just really think that that's such a complex issue because it's not kind of just about one thing.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I really got. I wasn't gonna hold you up. Just want to chime that in. I gleaned some stuff from here that I'm gonna take and use. So appreciate that.
All right, man. I appreciate you coming through, man. Thank you.
Not a problem.
All right, be easy. Yeah. So, and I feel what he's saying about income level for, people trying to make sure they got their basics together first. And I agree. But I was talking about an example with the guy saying we need 20 million for the church. Well, they already raising money. And I know Mr. Bryan, I know his church. I know they got some type of tithing or some type of donation attached to their church. Can we split a segment off of that and start accumulating and stuff? So yeah, if you don't have it, you don't have it. But people got it. Somebody got it. Because it's money coming to somebody. Okay, Ms. I said the PX got the retail goods commissary for food. Okay, my bad. Yeah, so I knew a guy, his mother worked on the base. I believe she worked in the commissary, but I think because she worked on the base, she could shop there. So he would get the Jordans for cheap on the base. Exactly. Latter-day Saints buy stocks. Yeah, you're right about that. 100% correct. Their fund is ridiculous. But they also, Pascal, really aggressively tell their members, you got to give us money. Like they're real aggressive with it. They don't play no games. Like they're real aggressive with that. From what I heard from people that was in that church, they don't play about we need our money. But another thing they do is they do business with each other, so the money just move around in a circle. But they real aggressive about that. They need their bread. Ms. Tokes, not as right now, not necessarily. Give me a few more months. I set the consultant up. We move into content in another area. But I appreciate you reaching out for me. Ms. Goddess says, I see the $750,000 townhouses on Donnelly Hollowell. Yeah, I was just over there like 2-3 months ago. Average house over there, $400,000 or $500,000. So Goddess Noel says, Pastor Brian attaches Dana with leverage trending so he can get the bag. I mean, that's what works. If everybody looking for the next trend, that's what works. People don't like consistency. They like what's hot. So he going with what worked. He ain't going against the grain. He going with the grain. Katrina's Miss Alexander, is called U.S. Aid. And they, like, from my understanding, was an organization to where, to me, they were doing a lot of goodwill internationally. But the brother Watts came in and said that they were also hiring people domestically, right? But it's I thought it was USAA, but it's really USAID. But we call it USA Aid, right? So even though the A is not double, I was just calling it. So it's really USA. So it's USAID, right? So they claiming they're going to shut that down. The issue is, and this is, like I said, we can let them be. And even though Donald Watts was talking about it was detrimental to the people that he's associated with, I can understand that because they're very broad in what they do. But we have a lot of people on a quote unquote MAGA community, and they're very happy that they believe that, you know, Trump is going to, you know, create financial efficiency in the government, which he's not, you know, because it's really not possible. The budget for U.S. aid is like, I don't know, a minute part of the overall federal budget. Everybody that knows, the majority of our money is going to defense, right? It's going to defense. It's not going to U.S. aid. So what they're doing is they're going after low-hanging fruit. They're making a lot of noise around low-hanging fruit. It's going to be detrimental to some people because they're going to lose their funding. And they're going to present it as a win to their group, and they're going to buy it. And that's why I said is that we can't buy into that type of stuff because it ain't going to add up to nothing at the end of the day. Okay, they got you. Appreciate it. Ms. Notary World says, do I think white Christian conservatives are behind this anti-DEI? I wouldn't say white Christian conservatives. I just say there's a segment of the population that has been convinced that they'll feel better if they think DEI goes away. But DEI being eliminated won't change their life. But they've been sold on they'll feel better. It's their drug now. So, you know, 2 years ago, it was critical race theory. There's a segment of the population that anything dealing with Black people and race, they'll buy into it. It gets all their attention. And so that's how you can control that segment of the population. You feel, just let them feel like we got a way in which you can just stay one little step ahead, Black people. You can feel like you are, and they'll buy right into a hook, line, and sinker. Right? Because that's what they bought into. The only thing that's important to them is they feel like they're doing better than somebody Black. Right? That's like their criteria for life. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's white Christian conservatives. I think there's a segment of the population where they've attached DEI to Black. And so they believe that if we get rid of DEI, my life's going to be better. But in 2 years, they'll be talking about something else because 2 years ago, they was talking about critical race theory. And then we noticed that's gone away. Right? So it's just, there's always something that you can feed to that audience dealing with Black people to where they're going to buy into it because they spend their time worrying about Black folks, which is weird to me. So again, Cedric Wade, man, appreciate the $4 super sticker. So anybody want to come through, let me know. And then we going to bounce out on this Super Bowl Sunday. So this could be a Bud Light situation. Target sale fell 5.4% in the quarter ending July 2023. Y'all remember that. Target has issues anyway with their business, regardless of this DEI situation. Because they're losing a lot of consumers to Walmart. So they're already challenged in that particular area. But they still got a good business, though. Ms. Naughty Word says you see on TikTok, white farmers are upset because of the Inflation Reduction Act has stopped their funding. They're regretting to vote for Trump. I feel you. I mean, let's see how it plays out. We still early in the how do you call it? The administration. We're not even a month in, are we? Was it 120? Yeah, we're not even a month in. So let's see how it plays out. You always felt like Target did want black shoppers. I ain't never had no issue, and I just don't go in there a lot. To me, they don't really have a lot of stuff in there. Their online to me is better than their retail footprint. So I bought some stuff from them online, but when you go into their stores, to me, it's just really not a lot in there. Like, I don't get it, right? But it's not Walmart, so I get they're trying to be totally opposite of Walmart. But when I go into a Target, I just don't really see a lot of inventory, right? So I don't even understand, like, why would it even come up in here? Like, they don't have a lot of stuff. But I guess, I don't know. And it's not like the pricing is better. Like, the HBA is not better. Their electronics pricing is not. So I don't see the reason to go in there. I went in there when I was in Orlando. I went in there to buy some boxes. That was it. And that was because it was the only thing available to me. So it's just, I don't know. I never was a big fan of, like I said, even though I used to work there. Because this one close to me, I never go in there ever. Okay, so it looks like we got Chiefs for the win. Like I said, I'm taking the over. Hopefully everybody can play injury-free tomorrow, and we can get some decent entertainment for the last football game of the year. That's really all I'm looking for, because I'm definitely not a Chiefs fan. But one thing about the Chiefs, and I give the Chiefs credit, Chiefs ain't never really – I mean, I think the Chiefs won the first Super Bowl, maybe the second Super Bowl, way back in the day. And they was just average to good for like decades. But they just stuck in there. The team never left the city. They just stuck in there. Now they having a run that's going to go down as one of the all-time best runs in NFL history. It just go to show you, man, sometimes, man, you just got to put your head down and just maintain your situation. You're going to come back. You can't jump all over the place, because a lot of ownership groups or the NFL would have probably been like, hey, man, let's move the team. Let's go to a different market. They stayed where they was at, and now look at them, man. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all going to be too young to remember, nobody ever thought the Chiefs would be this good. Like, it wasn't even something people even thought about. That's like saying the Kansas City Royals going to be a dominant team in baseball. Like, nobody believed that. But so they just stuck around. They got lucky with a quarterback. They got a coach with Andy Reid, and then they got lucky on that quarterback, and then it all just fell in place. And now they going on one of the all-time best runs I've ever seen in sports. Because if they win this year, I think that's a three-peat. I don't think anybody's ever done that. But even if they don't win this year, they got a superstar quarterback that's not even 30 years old. He got another 10 years to play if he don't get hurt. So they're going to always be in the mix. Right? They're going to always be in the mix. So it is what it is. Like I tell you, sometimes, man, you just got to hang around long enough. You know? And everybody else will fall by the wayside, and you'll be the only person left standing. Okay, Ms. Finn said they won Super Bowl 4, because they won Super Bowl 4. You know how long ago that was? That was a long time ago. So between Super Bowl 4 and then I forgot which one they won, I think it was against San Francisco. That's a lot of gap between them two Super Bowls. Boy, some big gaps, right? So, you know, they just hung out. Put a team together and just kept coming out there. But now they on a run of all runs. So big up to them. Still not a Chiefs fan, though. Ms. Noteworth says, Armenians in Cali trying to get the immigration status secured. Had a few appointments today. Big up to you. Keep doing that business. You know what I'm saying? Keep doing your thing. Take advantage of the situation. You know, whatever it is, take advantage of it. I would reach out to them Armenians and say, hey, tell everybody you know I got you. So I keep getting them calls. So C. Simon says the United States is a corporation. Trump is running it like one. Well, you can't run the government like a corporation. That's what people, I don't think people understand that. You can't run government like a corporation because it's government. You can't run it like a corporation. So he's not running it like a corporation because you can't do that. That's like saying I could drive my Toyota like I could drive a Porsche. You can't. Once my Toyota goes over a certain amount of speed, the car will literally fall apart. I can't drive it like a Porsche. It's not possible. You can't run government like a corporation. It's not possible, right? It's just not. If they really ever try to run government like a corporation, so many things would go wrong because you can't run government like a corporation. It's not possible. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. It sounds good to say that type of stuff, but you can't run a government like a corporation. Not an effective government. You can run an ineffective government like one, but you can't run an effective government like a corporation. It's not possible. That's why it's government. You know, and a government the size of the United States and the responsibility that we have in the world, we can't run it like a corporation because it means that things will go wrong in other parts of the world that would negatively impact us because we're not on top of those situations, right? Because, see, Simon, if we're going to run the United States like a corporation, what's the business justification to have our nuclear submarine fleet that costs millions of dollars? How do you justify that from a business standpoint? It don't make us any money. So we got subs in the water 24 hours a day with a nuclear payload. So at a moment's notice, right, they can incinerate people. Where's the business justification for that? That's just a cost. But we don't get any revenue back because of that, right? So that's why you can't run government like a corporation. How do we justify a lot of government spending? So it just, these things are colloquialisms. They sound good, but you can't run business. You can't run, especially the United States, you can't run it like a corporation to where you can run it like you're running, let's say, Apple computers. It's not the same thing. Because Apple computers doesn't have the responsibility, right, that the United States has. It don't have the responsibility. It just has responsibility to its shareholders, but it don't have any other responsibility. Something that Trump and Mattis got into an issue with during his first administration was Mattis was trying to get Trump to understand is that we have a responsibility to our allies and we can't drop the ball on them. And Trump didn't agree with that. But Mattis' attitude was that we can't drop the ball on our allies because if we go back to them, they're not going to believe what we're telling them. So if we commit to them, we got to stay through the test of time. But from a business standpoint, just cut the relationship because it don't make sense anymore. But yeah, when you go back through that, they're not going to listen to what you got to say. So I just think it's kind of similar to where we're going to get rid of U.S. aid, and U.S. aid is such a minute part of the overall budget. I would ask, let's look at the inefficiency in defense contracting, because that's where the real money's at. But they're not going to touch that, especially Elon Musk, because he get money from the DOD. So I guarantee he don't look into that. He gonna look in every area except that area right there. I bet you $1,000 right now he won't do it. And I'll pay you the $1,000 if I'm wrong. He not gonna look in the DOD and he not gonna find nothing if he do look. And I guarantee you that there's inefficiency in spending in Department of Defense. Because I know a guy who told me he served in Iraq. He told me how much it costs just to do his laundry. And it was outrageous. And that was just to do the laundry. And he served in Iraq as a combat troop. Just to do the laundry, he told me how much it costs to do a bag of laundry. It's ridiculous. So they going to look where they know they can get away with looking. They're not going to look nowhere else. They know not to do that. And the majority of a large percentage of our budget, the majority of money that I'm taxed for goes to defense spending, right? It definitely don't go to USA. So, like I said, these colloquialisms, they sound good, but they're not how the world really works, especially not the United States. So like we got nobody else to come through. Y'all have a good Super Bowl Sunday. Like I say, hopefully everybody can play and not get hurt. I got the Chiefs winning and I got the over. And we're going to take it from there. So y'all be easy.